Hi, I'm Candace Gourdain. Welcome to Fitness and Harmony's Heal from Injury and Ride the Roller Coaster. The roller coaster that I'm talking about is the emotional stress roller coaster, that there's always something, or there's always going up and then there's the going back down. And yoga teaches us that it's steadiness in the mind that creates the harmony and the health of our experience. So the ups and downs, I'm going to go into the physiology of the mind, of the brain, the nervous system. You can tune out if you didn't want to know this. Just know that yoga has a solution for your stress. The stress response typically starts in an organ in the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala senses when something's going to threaten our well-being, whether it's physical well-being or mental well-being, like I didn't like that she didn't care for my shoes. It's going to set off a response with hormones and chemicals. So the hypothalamus, that's another organ in the brain that retrieves a memory that says, this is a problem, we better do something about it. Again, it doesn't matter whether that problem is she doesn't like my shoes or there's actually a train speeding at me. My brain response is going to be the same, and that matters a lot. It'll send chemicals down through the vagus nerve, past the heart and the lungs to speed those things up so we have more oxygen-rich blood to respond to a physical threat. Again, doesn't matter whether it's a physical threat or not. We didn't think about it. The response is the same. Goes to the adrenal glands. Those are in your low back. That releases more adrenaline and cortisol. So now your body is on full alert. All the senses are awake. It shuts down digestive system, immune system, and the reproductive glands. So those things are going to be muted during the time when you have to get ready for action. So the body is on this full alert, and that's called the sympathetic nervous system. The nerves are actually putting you awake so that you're ready for whatever happens. All of these glands that I'm describing relate to the chakras in yoga. We talk about the chakras. So the glands, the endocrine system, tells the body when to do what. So for example, in the middle of your head, you have the pituitary gland, which is considered the master gland. It has to do with growth and the cycles of life, like when do you start growing hair or when do you start, etc. So the glands are telling the body kind of information, this is when you do things, but the nervous system actually sends those messages out, like to the heart and the lungs. So yoga hacks or uses all of those systems, we call them chakras in yoga, so that we can come back to a state of steadiness. Again, that's parasympathetic nervous system. Those two nervous systems are separate. They don't interact with each other. The brain and the endocrine or the hormonal systems decide which one to use. So we can use breath to change the interaction of the vagus nerve, and we can also use thoughts. If we wire our amygdala, that response, to always overreact, always react, always overreact again and again and again, then that becomes very well trained. In other words, we start seeing these threats and triggers everywhere, and we actually go into what psychologists would call a mental disorder, like stress, anxiety, all those mood disorders. So we can hack that with a yoga flow. So I want to invite you. So that was your too long lesson. Come to a seated pose, pull the shoulders onto the back. We'll hold on, take one hand and hold on to this leg. So I want you to get a good grip on that leg. So make like a hook with your fingers. So you're holding on to whatever you've got there, whether it's flesh or hopefully you got some bone you can feel, so that you can lean away. So my shoulder is being pulled down towards the knee, and my side body is lifting up. Now let your head fall a little bit over. The muscles of the body that react to the stress response are typically deep abdominal muscles and this upper trapezius sternocleidoid mastoid, this muscle on the side. Now turn your face towards the floor and then pull your head into the back plane like you're going to look back over your shoulder. You should really feel that muscle. Let the head rock forward again. Turn your face a little bit up. So if you were sitting in a chair, I want you to try this again later when you're seated in a hard chair, and you can hold on to the edge of the chair. You're really going to like this stretch. Come back up. Let's try again. So hold on to, in this case, the other leg. Really get your fingers up under that bone or that flesh. I'm going to hold on to that tendon behind my knee, something that you can really get a good grip on, and then lean away. I'm trying to stretch through the top of the shoulder and try to lengthen this sideways, then let the head hang. Keep pulling, you should feel tension. So even though we stretch in yoga, and you may think that that's a magic bullet, it's really not. You can't stretch away tension. The mind, which is part of the nervous system, again, your brain is really the thing in control here. The brain and the nervous system has to acquiesce. It has to decide there's no threat here. I can let go. So I can pull on this all day long. It's not going to really change anything unless my mind is here and it's changing something. Take a breath in here. Turn the face down. Let that breath go. And then rock your head slightly back, like it's pulling, like you're looking back to the back of your shoulder. Let the head go forward again, then turn your face a little bit up. And then release. So come back up. I want to come down to the back for a moment. So without the blankets, if you have a couple of extra blankets today, we're going to do a really nice shavasana in a little while. But come down to the back. I want you to pause with your eyes closed to scan the body. Begin your ujjayi. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. Vibrate the thyroid. I'm going to talk a little bit about the gland system today. The thyroid is a gland that sits in the throat. It has a lot to do with the speed of metabolism and also the building of bones. Very interesting. Nothing about the endocrine system or the glandular system is simple. Much more complicated than I can begin. But as we vibrate the energy into the thyroid, we're changing the speed. This is a simple way to say it. So if we're going to stop this high speed accident, first thing we have to do is slow it down. So begin to pump the brakes, but scan the body. The muscles and the body parts that are usually associated with high stress are a deep abdominal muscle called the psoas, the hip, the low back muscles, and the upper back shoulder muscles. We just stretched a little bit. Do 3 slow breaths. Slow down the tempo of whatever physiological reactions are going on. Now from here, walk your heels in towards your hips. We're going to get ready for a bridge pose. I want you to kind of shake the legs and the feet around, almost like your legs are dancing. And we're going to just do a little bit more shaking. A whole lot of shaking is going to go on because the chemicals, in particular adrenaline, press the feet into the floor. Those chemicals stay in the tissues. They don't clear out very quickly. Now roll your shoulders under your back. So do that by spinning your arm bones out and tucking your shoulders. So your low back and your middle back come up off the floor like you've made a channel in your back. Then put the tops of the shoulders all the way up into that upper trapezius. Put that down into the floor. Now your low back still has that little arch, but the muscles on the upper back are pushing into the floor. Then press into your feet and levitate your hips up off the floor. As you do that, begin to feel the stretch on the front of your hip flexors. I just said that the muscles in the body parts that have to do with the stress response are a deep abdominal muscle called the psoas, which does attach into the sort of the inner groin, into the inner thigh, and into the low back. So you should feel that muscle stretch almost immediately. And then I said the upper back and neck and shoulders. So press the upper back, the neck, and the shoulders into the floor. So that means your chin goes down. So we're activating those muscles. We're getting a new neural pattern. When you stimulate muscle, when you stimulate a body part, you have the ability to move something. So let's say a bunch of adrenaline had been sitting, on that psoas muscle, for example. But now we're stretching it, but here's the important part. Breathe. Mindfully move your mental activity. This is important. from the amygdala, that stress, fight, flight, freeze response, into the prefrontal cortex, into the front of your brain. The front of your brain is where you do your thinking. 2 breaths here. Think about what you're feeling. Your feet on the floor, your shoulders on the floor. 1 more breath. Think about energy flowing and the breath moving. Then bring the hips all the way down. Bring the arms up and out like goalpost or cactus, and then sway the knees side to side. So we follow up a pose in yoga with kind of a shaking motion. If you've ever been in a really traumatic event, you might find that when the event has sort of passed, you find yourself still shaking. You're shaking. What does that do? Well, that's the effect of adrenaline still coursing through your veins and arteries and still in your tissues, and it's trying to clear itself. Now take the legs up, over, and to one side and down. All right, I want you to close your eyes again. And picture the low back. There's the spine, the spinal cord, the muscles around that area, and of course the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands can give like a direct shot of that adrenaline to the muscles around the waist. Good place for it because that's where we start all our activity, and around the hips. Do 3 slow breaths. 2. So then begin to take your legs, your hips up and over to the other side. So we're spiraling the spine almost like when you take a cloth and twist it. You want to clear out the chemicals and the hormones of stress. So with this cactus twist, we're doing a deep release, the deep holdings of the traumas. Deep inside. So not superficially. In yoga, we're not just stretching the superficial fascia or the muscles on the outside. We're going deep into the organs, the glandular systems, the nervous system. 2 slow breaths. And exhale. Bring the feet back to the floor, the knees back to center. Widen your feet, but bring your knees in towards each other. I want to pause for a second. Maybe your low back hurts. Maybe we're not even talking about a stress response. Maybe it was a physical response to things you've done in your life, or just genetically. The bones there and the muscles there are different shapes. This posture, just holding the knees supporting each other, the legs supporting each other, this releases that psoas, so there's no more pull on that low back. So this is just a good way to practice breathing and let your mind find balance. Once you have balance in the mind, then you regain power. It's kind of like if your tires don't have traction on the ground, you have no power. You have no ability to get back to where you want it to go. So as you use your breath to stabilize the body's, let's call it the energy systems, you regain the power and control. Slowly begin to roll to your side. I want you to remember some of these little movement patterns we did, so that when you find yourself stressed, when you're ready now, push up off the floor, come to hands and knees. Now wave the spine from the tail up through the head. Just create a wave. So it may take you a second to figure out, how do you do this? You know, it doesn't matter what muscles. I just want you to picture a wave. Remember I said when we're stressed out, we have these neurochemicals and the glands, hormones, they're all interacting. And this is very much like yoga's chakra system to control when and what's happening. But it all starts with the mind. It all starts with that amygdala. That's a really important little organ there in the center of the brain that decides it's time to stress out. And the more you do, the more often it will. You just get better and better at stressing out. So repeat to yourself, here's another hack. I am statements. I am safe. I am breathing. I am fearless. 2 more breaths. This awakens your peripheral nervous system. So I want you to move up through downward dog. So engage the lower abdominals, lift the hips up, stretch back, and in your time, move forward to forward fold. Now what just happened in between hands and knees to forward fold was a lot of transitioning, and a lot of muscles gave you a lot of feedback. In other words, a lot happened. So let your mind and those I am statements get caught up. Progressively and constructively interact with all of those systems and this flow of breath. Bring your hands to your knees, engage the lower belly, and come up, mostly with a flat back. So once you come up to standing, let's try this. I want you to shake your hands. That's easy enough. Most of us are still with me. Okay, Candace, I got that. Now shake your arms. Still not too bad, right? Still not too bad. I can shake arms. Now shake your shoulders. We're not liking this anymore. Shoulders look weird, right? Now shake your chest. That whole upper body. Shake, 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 shake. You can laugh, it's funny. Then shake your hips and your abs. Shake those abs, let them shake. Now shake the hips and the legs, let everything shake. Are my hands still going? Yes. Take those knees around, shake the ankles. We all look a little bit like the king of rock and roll, I know. And then shake the feet around. And then let it all just drop. Come into Tadasana. Align from the heels through the soles of the feet. Pull up through the insteps of the feet. Zip the inner thighs inward and upward. Pull up from the pelvic floor. Remember the basket of muscles pulling in. Pull up through the lower abdominals from the navel down to the pubic bone. Now draw up tall through the spine and align the head. Spin the shoulders open and back and down. So you might need to look down for this next thing, but you might know where your toes are. Hopefully they're at the end of your feet where you left them. See if you can just lift your big toes only. So if it were my hands, it would just be my thumbs. You might have to look down to see if they actually did that. I'm not sure if you can feel whether that's happening. Then put that big toe down. Use the thumb toe, I don't know. Then see if the other 4 toes will go up. This one you probably have to look down. You're not sure what she means by that. Then put all 10 toes down. Let's try that again. Thumb toe or big toe only. And then down. And then the other 4 toes. What we're actually stretching and strengthening here is the plantar fascia. There's fascia on the bottom of the foot. So you may have an injury on the bottom of the foot. So we're strengthening the fascia and the muscle there so that it can respond to the walking and pounding of running. Put all 10 toes down. Then try bending both knees a little. Shift left and right, almost like you're walking. Shift left and right. So put all your weight into one foot, then the other. So we want to wake up the inner and outer foot and ankles. So we're healing from our injuries that happen usually from like walking and living and lifting and the things that we do. Put all your weight onto one foot and press down into the edges of that foot. Pause there. Squeeze the abdominals in. Lift the other foot up a little and bend the knee. Now if the foot wants to stay on the floor, let that happen. So from the side, I have one knee that's bent. That's what's important here. So that the foot It has no weight on it. That's the only thing that matters right now. Keep working on balance for a moment. Work on the 5 toes that are on the floor, that all 5 of them are playing a role in balance. Slowly, mindfully, move away from stress and steady the mind. See if the body will become steady as the mind becomes steady. And then release. Let's try the other side. So put all of your weight onto the other foot. Take a second, micro bend the knee to press the 5 toes down and seal the edges of the foot. In the center of the foot though, pull those muscles inward and upward, kind of like a suctioning inward, upward. Then bend the other knee. Maybe take the foot off the floor, maybe leave the toe. Align. So pull up from the foot through the knee, pull from the knee up into the hip, into the abdominals, draw up tall through the spine, align that head weight. Now slowly and mindfully, move your mental activity to the front where reason is. You can start thinking again. This is cultivating presence. I'm asking you to feel things. This is why you like doing yoga with an instructor so much, is that I'm cultivating your presence and I'm directing your mind so that you aren't creating the normal chaos and stress that you normally feel. Give this 2 more breaths. Remember the 5 toes. Remember the ball mounds behind the 5 toes? They're pressing down too, just like our fingers when we're in hands and knees. And then release down. Let's go back to that first leg. Press down. Exact same thing we were. Maybe lift this other leg up just to make sure that that leg's not getting in your way. Now, bring your hands to the hips. Doesn't matter whether your hands are way up here, way down there. Just make your hands level. Make this hip that has the foot up go up and then drop it down. Pull it up. Your hands can help. And down. I know a lot of you are saying, how do you do that? It's abdominal control. But this is an important muscle. These muscles that control how the hips move and hold, these are really important to prevent injury. If you can control these muscles, you can change the interaction of the muscles and into the low back. So this is called hip hinging. You're hinging that hip up and down and up and down. Another way to do this is to stand on a step so this other leg can hang. So you have to do it right. Do 3 or 4 more. And then switch. So one leg down, other leg balance, the foot on the floor. Remember, perfect alignment. Hands on the hips so that you can see what you're doing. This other hip now goes up and down. This one doesn't move as much for me. This one's a lot bigger challenge. So the purpose of this hip hike, hip hinge, is to strengthen the IT band and stretch it out so it actually can move when you walk. We'll stretch that IT band in a second just to be sure you know what I'm talking about. It controls how your hips go up and down. Good. Three. All right, so take one foot a little forward and one foot a little bit back. I don't know, 2 feet maybe. Whichever foot is in the back, that's the side. That arm goes up overhead and then lean to the other side. So whatever leg's behind you, that arm's overhead and lean. You might even take this other hand and grab its wrist and pull. But the stretch should be coming from the side of the hip, that IT band. So we're healing your injuries today. And we're learning how to ride the roller coaster. So above all, breathe. Slow, mindful breath. And the flow of the breath and the mind together stimulates that vagus nerve. that causes the nervous system to slow down and give you that beautiful rush of endorphins. Release. Let's try the other side. So 1 foot forward, the other one a little bit back, not too far. Evenly distribute the body weight. Take that back leg's arm up, lean over. You can grab the arm and pull, but you should be pulling from the hip, not pulling the arm out of the socket. Never do that. Repeat the safe situation. I am safe. So positive affirmation, telling yourself over and over, I am in a safe situation. I am fearless. I am relaxed. I am blessed. This is a way of coming back to the prefrontal cortex, coming out of that stress response. One more breath. And then release. Come into chair pose. So, feet hip width apart, knees back, hips push back, little booty pushing back, abs pulling in and up, arms can stay up, they can stay down. Because this pose, what is chair pose teaching us? You'll know in a second, right, if you haven't gotten it yet, that sometimes life is uncomfortable. There is discomfort. The body has to be under some tension sometimes. It's just going to be. Chair pose is a meditative pose that teaches you what is, that you can stay with what is. We don't always have to rush out of a situation. We don't have to get out of this. We can sit with what is. We can be a little bit uncomfortable. That's where our power comes from. Being able to sit with what is, that's where power comes from. Not from running away every single time. Let's give this 3 breaths. Keep pushing the hip bones back. Like you're going to fall backward almost. And 1. So come up. Extend up and back. Remember, arms are always optional. Arms can always stay down. They don't have to fly up over your head. And then come to a forward fold. So we're not really flowing today. We're not going from pose to pose to pose. Notice I just widen my leg stance here because I just want to come to a forward fold, and I want you to find your forward fold. Good, just like that. The purpose of forward fold, you remember that shaking we did a moment ago? And we cleared out the adrenaline and the cortisol and all of those neurochemicals. The forward fold rebalances the circulatory system, the blood pressure. It stretches the hamstrings, the gluteals into the low back. So the most common reason people have low back pain is that those muscles are really tight. One reason could be from stress, but there are many, many reasons muscles might stay tight, but you can't stretch out tension. Your mind has to do that. And you do that with these positive, in yoga the word is mantra, mind vehicle. I am kind. I am open to receive. I am open to receive. 3 slow breaths. 3, 2. All right, so make your way now all the way down into hands and knees, into child's pose. 3, 2. Come forward and down onto the belly. We're going to call this grasshopper exercise. our upper body's not going to really do anything. So however you're comfortable with your upper body here. Take the knees open and wide, bend the knees and bring the heels and toes together. So my feet look like they're in Anjali Mudra, you know, Anjali Mudra, hands together. Push the feet together. Keep doing that for a second. I want you to figure out what muscles. Many of our injuries also can come from deactivated gluteals. I always think that's a funny term, deactivated gluteals, meaning that you're not really using your glutes because you've been sitting on them. Now try lifting your legs up. So keep the connection. This is important. Our feet are in Anjali Mudra, right? They're pushing together. Keep that. When we're standing and we're doing all our tree poses and our balancing poses and you don't seem to have balance, it could be that your gluteals really aren't stabilizing you. So learning to sit in this discomfort so that the gluteals actually stabilize you when you're walking and hiking and picking something up may be really healthy for your back. I'm going to ask you to hold. We're going to call this Grasshopper Pose today so that we're strengthening and retraining the gluteals. Push the feet together. 2. I really feel that. And 1, release. Push back into child's pose. I'm going to leave my knees out wide. Let's see how that does. So more of a frog pose. Slowly, mindfully, move your breath. But move, more important maybe, is move your mental activity. So what you're saying matters. What you're thinking matters. If you just have an image of a waterfall or a beach and you can maintain that, the sensory experience, but I am on the beach and I'm relaxed and, you know, soaking up sun safely, then do that. Give me a second here. Come up. Step 1 foot forward. Push forward. Take your time here. I'm not going to hold, you know, a big yoga pose here and then push your hips back. I just wanted to give you a second to stretch those inner thigh gluteal muscles we just worked. Just 2 breaths. Hips back. And then switch sides. So push the hips back, yes. Stretching out the hamstrings, usually tight hamstrings or tight gluteals or the combination cause the pull in conjunction with that deep abdominal psoas muscle that pulls that L5, L5, S1 out. Could be L1. One more slow breath. And push forward. All right, let's grab those blankets. Let's say you have a blanket that's folded somewhat like, you know, a foot by 2 feet. And that's going to go under your chest and hips. If you had a second blanket, you can rewatch this video if this is to fold it more like a tube. That's going to go under your ankles. So one smallish blanket under your ankles. And then a bigger blanket. I even would put a taller one here. That would actually feel better. And we're going to call this surfboard pose. So can you imagine laying on a surfboard? What would that be like? You'd have it under your chest and your hips. I wouldn't mind an actual pillow here for my head. So the point here is that your heart and your abs, you know, these 2 chakras are supported by something. That's the important thing. So come down. Once you're comfortable, right? Hips are supported, hopefully. Abs are supported, heart is supported. Relax. I'm using my hands for my forehead. Let's practice some slow but deep breath. I said that you can't stretch tension out of your muscle. Inhale. Exhale, but you can breathe it out. Your breath is not going to become really deep, slow, and expansive on its own. That requires some cognitive. In other words, you have to think about it. Deep inhale. Long, deep exhale. You're emptying the body of neurochemicals. These are chemical messengers that did a very good job of doing something that your body desperately thought it needed. Scan and notice body parts that are holding on. Repeat to them, I am safe. So maybe I tell my shoulders, I am relaxed. I am receptive. My body closes in, closes down, creates a wall or a barrier between it and the outer world, sometimes very necessarily. So saying, I am open to receive, really has a special power in the body. Exhale. Two. I'm going to invite you to begin to come out of this pose. But if this really feels like Shavasana and a really, really good one for you, then stay there, because I only have one more thing before Shavasana, and you could just skip it if you want to. And that thing is to come to a seat. Cross one ankle over the other knee, wherever you find that knee or thigh. Maybe it's up, maybe it's down. But then lean and roll onto the glute of the leg that's on top. Lean and roll. You're rolling. We're rolling. Not everyone has one of those rolling things. So we're using the floor. Roll and roll. Again, sometimes injury come from really tight fascia around the side of the hip, and that hurts the low back. So rolling and even massaging. Remember we did that IT band? Let's do that again. So kind of rub your hand up and down that IT band. Remember we did that grasshopper where we were pushing the legs together and the hamstring was kind of cramping. And then make your way over to the other side. Ankle on top of the knee or thigh. Hold on, I have this fascia here giving me a little bit of a chat, saying, wait, I don't know. Then maybe roll onto that same hip of the top leg and roll around on it. Almost like, that glute is round and you're wobbling on it. And sometimes you can feel the cords of the muscle kind of being strummed over the underlying bone. Sometimes that's a good feeling, sometimes it's not. So then we were rubbing a little into the fascia on the side and down the IT band. Dig in hard. These things are very, very deep and tight. And then come into Shavasana. Shavasana. Blankets, no blankets. Seated, lying down, face up. Shavasana is really one of the only poses that doesn't have alignment because it's draining life out. So now feel saturated as you reap the benefits of feeling balanced and anchored. Luxuriate in this feeling. I feel relaxed, open, safe. I am present, kind, blessed. I want you to scan the body one more time. And I want you to locate and find one body part that's still holding tension, like a little knot. Once you've located that spot, I want you to talk directly to it. I feel safe. Drop the little sands of tension out of that part and down into the earth. I am rested, kind, loved. Now inhale deeply, expand the ribs out from the bottom up to the top, fill up, and then let go. Begin to make your way onto your side. Open your eyes and then push up. Slowly make your way all the way back up and into a Sukhasana. Aligning the chakras. The base chakra root connects us to the earth, that anchor where we just were. A sacral chakra, fluidity and movement, the ability to wiggle about. The belly chakra, strength and power and confidence. The heart chakra, going out into the world and interacting in a meaningful way, being safe where we go. Throat chakra, being able to vocalize and speed up or slow down actions. And of course, the third eye that sees all. And above is the crown. Bring the hands together. Bring those thumbs to the forehead. So take a second to kind of close your eyes and appreciate those chakras. The red, the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, the indigo, violet, and white, all the way up through the top of the head, kind of like flames or light. Open your eyes. Now inhale, circle the arms down through the belly, out, reach up. Exhale, bring the hands back out. Gather the energy from the earth, pull it in, up through the belly, where it manifests, through the heart, from me to you. Namaste.